Let's bring in MS Now White House reporter Akayla Gardner and MS Now's Ariel Hickson, who's talking to drivers at a rest stop in Breezewood, Pennsylvania. Also with us, Professor of Economics at the University of Michigan, Justin Wolfers. Akayla, set the stage for us. What are we expecting to see at this event this morning, and what does the president want from Warsh?
Well, the president has been very clear. He wants lower interest rates. It's something that he said was a criteria for the person that he ultimately picked to be in this job. And Kevin Warsh was somebody who actually did advocate for lower interest rates last year when many people believe he was a shadow candidate for this job. But the economy is in such a different place than when the White House first started searching for someone to fill the vacancy by Jerome Powell. And that's in no small part because of the war in Iran and the fighting that we've seen in the Strait of Hormuz, which has caused a huge bottleneck for supply chains. And markets, frankly, right now are expecting a hike from the Federal Reserve in the months to come. And he is just going to have to face a really tight rope to walk. And in many ways, this ceremony is symbolic of the fact that President Trump will be watching his every move. And he will be able to ask Jerome Powell about what that's like, because Powell will remain on the board and he will have a vote on that powerful committee.
Justin, overall inflation was 3.8% last month, well above the Fed's 2% target. Trump's tariffs are still impacting the global market. It will reportedly take months, not days, for the global energy crisis to end due to the war with Iran, which, of course, that ongoing conflict is continuing. So we really don't have a good end in sight. How difficult of a job does Warsh have waiting for him?
Mate, I'd be tempted to say I wouldn't want the job. He's facing a slowing economy at the exact same time as he's got high and rising inflation. And no one really knows what it is the boss wants. Is President Trump going to give him the freedom to run an independent central bank? There's big questions inside the Fed, which is Kevin Warsh bringing the independently minded, serious economist Kevin Warsh to the table, or is he bringing the craven partisan that he showed during the Senate confirmation hearings? His most important job right now actually is to win the trust of the American people and the rest of the Federal Reserve Board so that hopefully then he can lead effectively.
Trump hammered Jerome Powell for not cutting interest rates. Given the current economic factors, what do you expect to see from Warsh on that front?
So I think the most important thing to realise is that Kevin Warsh doesn't control interest rates. A 12-person committee does, and he's one of the 12. And so what that means is we're not going to get radical change tomorrow. Historically, the Fed chair's been a really important role. They've gotten a lot of respect and deference from the rest of that committee, but that's an earned respect, and Warsh hasn't yet earned that respect. If you look at markets right now, they actually believe that the Kevin Warsh is going to turn up and the Federal Reserve is actually more likely to raise interest rates than lower them going forward. So prior to the war in Iran, we were looking forward to a couple of interest rate cuts, maybe make the mortgage a little easier to meet. That's off the table right now. And really the question is the if or the when on where we go next.
Ariel, you are talking to drivers this morning. Of course, gas prices are still climbing. What are they telling you?
Well, Anna, I'm here in Breezewood, PA, a major gas and travel hub here on the East Coast. You can see a bunch of gas stations just lined up behind me. Now, people often stop at crossroads like this to fuel up for big road trips. And I spoke to people coming from Virginia Beach, going to Detroit, but regardless of where they're coming from or going to, there's one common feeling here, and it's frustration with those high gas prices. Take a listen.
Why is it so expensive? You know, I mean, just fix it. Go out there, bomb them, do what you need to do, just fix it. There's a lot of locals that, you know, they're trying to figure out if they're going to eat or if they're going to have gas to go to work. And it's pretty sad. It really is. You know, there's no reason for it. None whatsoever. Just fix it. Come on, Trump, I voted for you. Fix it. I am 66 years old, and I voted twice in my life, and both times they were for Trump. Okay? And I had faith in him, and it's just not what I thought it was going to be, I guess.
Now, you heard Erin there. She's only voted for President Trump in the past, and she's so frustrated with the current state of the economy right now that she actually tells me that she doesn't know she's going to vote in the future, Anna.
Ariel, thank you. And it's, of course, always good to hear from the voters, getting a pulse of the people. Kayla, the president is getting some really brutal numbers on the economy this week. I think what we just heard is a reflection of what we're seeing in the polls right now. 3 recent polls have his approval on this issue in the high 20s or low 30s. How's the White House planning to confront that?
Well, one thing that's really important to understand about President Trump is he is very much concerned about his legacy, and he has tried to make the case to the American people that the war in Iran is worth it in order to get Iran to never have a nuclear weapon. And as a result, he says the economic pain that people are feeling is also worth it. But we've seen him really highlight the performance of the stock market. We're also going to see him today in New York talking about his One Big Beautiful Bill and the refunds that Americans are seeing. So he's very much tried to divert attention away from high gas prices and high grocery prices.
And Justin, these polls come as the University of Michigan, your stomping grounds, just released its consumer survey. What do we need to know? What are the key findings?
Mate, the first key finding is it literally revealed that consumer sentiment this month is the lowest it's ever been in American history. My colleagues who run this survey have been running it now for over 60 years, and the American public has never been more unhappy. Only 7% believe that the economy's in a better position than it was 12 months ago. Only 13% expect it to be in a better place in a year's time. And the thing I found most striking is there's a question that asks people, how do you feel about the economic policies of the government? And 77% of Americans believe that they've done a poor job on economic policy. So it's not just that people are feeling it, it's that they really believe that this is coming directly out of the choices made by the White House.
Americans may be feeling sour towards the economy, and yet they're still shopping. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, all reporting strong earnings. Starbucks, Chipotle saying that consumers are returning to them. How do you explain that, Justin?
Well, some of this you want to be a little bit careful about. For instance, if more people are shopping at Walmart, often that's because they're moving to Walmart from more expensive supermarkets. That can sometimes be a counter-cyclical measure. I think you're right to say that if you look at consumers, they're spending as if they're a little bit optimistic than what they tell pollsters. But equally, there's just enormous fear about what happens over the next few months. The other thing to realise is that when we hear very high revenue numbers from these retailers, a lot of that's because they're charging higher prices, not because they're selling larger quantities. And so that twists a little bit how you might think about some of those numbers.
And do you see a breaking point for this spending trend?
Mate, I try not to think in terms of absolutes. The world's a complicated and fuzzy place. And the best analogy I can give you is I took my kids to the Grand Canyon a few weeks ago, a beautiful place everyone should go. But they delighted in walking on the path just along next to the side of the canyon. And I was a dad, I'm 10 feet inside, and I look at them and it made me hold my breath. And my kids told me that they were safe, but gee, I got to tell you, I felt really nervous watching them walk along that ledge. And that's how I felt as a dad, and right now that's how I feel as an economist.
Well, I am envious of your family trip. That's one that's on our list, I'd say the bucket list, for sure, as our kids grow older and older all the time. Thank you, Justin Wolfers. Kayla Gardner, thank you for that reporting. And we'll, of course, continue to keep an eye on what's happening there inside the White House with the Kevin Warsh swearing in just moments.